Okay, here we are going to learn how to read and retrieve data using from a two-dimensional array. So to insert data to a two-dimensional array, we need something called a nested loop. This is because here we are inserting data in rows and columns. So we need two loops. The first loop representing the row operation and second loop representing the column operation. Suppose here I want to insert a matrix, something like this. Here I want to insert a 2 by 2 matrix. This is an example of a 2 by 2 matrix. A 2 by 2 matrix means a matrix that contains two rows and two columns. So here I am going to show you how to read this type of an arrangement or this type of data to a two-dimensional array using nested loop. So here we have to use two loops, an inner loop and outer loop. The first one, the outer loop, if you read the data in row wise, then you have to use the outer loop to make the row operation, and you can use the inner loop to make the column operation. This is because while we inserting data in row wise, each row contains two columns. That means while executing the outer loop once, we have to execute the inner loop twice. If you inserting the data in column wise, then you have to use the outer loop to representing the columns and inner loop to representing the rows. This is because each column contains two rows. So in that case, if you insert, in that case, the outer loop representing the column, that means once the outer loop execute, we have to execute the inner loop twice. That means we have to insert the data into the two rows. Okay, so here I am going to insert data in row wise. That means I have to use the outer loop to representing the row and inner loop to representing the columns. So before, we have to declare a two-dimensional array that is capable of holding 2 by 2 matrix. So here all the elements are integer. So I use an integer two-dimensional array. First specify the row dimension and now specify the column dimension. Okay, now X is a two-dimensional array which is capable of holding a 2 by 2 matrix. So for using the two loops, we have to use two variables. I declare two variables I and j. Now here I am going to read the matrix using a scanf function. So we have to start the outer loop representing the number of columns or the column operation. Sorry, in this case, here I am going to insert data in row wise. So the outer loop representing the row. So initialize the variable I with the value 0 and put the condition I less than 2, I plus plus. Now this for loop representing the number of rows, because there are two rows, so we have to execute this loop two times. Now we have to representing the inner loop for j equal to 0 and put the condition j less than 2, j plus plus. Now the inner loop representing the number of columns, representing the column operation. So when the outer loop execute once, we have to execute the inner loop two times, because we have to insert two numbers in first row. That means we have to insert two numbers in two columns. Okay, so here open the inner loop body. So now I'm going to read the data using scanf function. So here all the values are integers, so using %d, and now specify the data. Now specify the variable using address operator, and here the array name is x of ij. Okay, so now in this arrangement, whenever the outer loop execute once, the inner loop execute twice. So we have to insert data in row wise using these nested loops. Okay, So now I'm going to display this matrix. So for displaying the matrix, we have to use the same loop arrangement. So we need an outer loop and inner loop to print a two-dimensional array. So here, instead of scanf function, here I'm going to use the printf, because here we are going to display the data, so there is no need of the address operator. Okay, so first it will print out the entire row. It will print the first row and then print the second row. So after printing the first row, so we need a space between each element. That's why I put a /t here. /t is an escape sequence that representing one tab of space. Okay, so after printing the first row, we have to print the second row in another line. That means after executing the inner loop, we have to print a new line. Okay, so this program will read a two-dimensional array and print a two-dimensional array. So now I am going to compile the program. I save the program. Now compile the program. Compilation is success. Now run the program. So now here we have to insert a 2 by 2 matrix. So the first element is 45, second element is 32. So now you have to specify the second row. The first element is 23, second element is 12. Now here we got the output. We read the matrix and print out the matrix using printf function. 45, 32, 23 and 12. This is how we read, and this is how we insert and retrieve data from a two-dimensional array.